Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Shut Up and Read. Today I want to do something completely different. I haven't done any wrap-up videos in a really long time. I don't think I've done one for like a year now. But the thing is, I don't really like to do wrap-up videos like talking to you guys about it. I prefer to write them all down. So I always do include a more comprehensive wrap-up post on my blog, which I will link down below for your perusal. But basically, I decided to do this video, books I read in August, because it's not really a wrap-up per se, but there's a few books I really do want to talk about that I think will be better suited for a video. And these are mostly arcs that I received from publishers or from BookCon, Book Expo, etc. that I just want to talk about just a little bit. Not enough for me to do a full book review, but I still really kind of want to discuss my feelings and thoughts about these books. And this video series is actually inspired from Jessie the Reader, because I feel like I don't really talk too much about books unless I'm doing a full-length book review. So I think I want to start this series right now just to kind of give you guys a sense of what I read this past month. Specifically, mostly for arcs really. I don't really want to talk about my ebook, my audiobooks, the other books I read, because usually those are backlisted copies as much, like usually more often so than not. So anyways, today I want to talk about 3 different arcs that I read this past month in August. So let's just get right into it. So the first book that I want to talk about is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart TURTON. This comes out on September 18th, and I got this from Book Expo. So a few things I definitely want to talk about this book right from the beginning is that the first 60 or 70 pages is like confusing as fuck. Like, it is so confusing, guys. And despite knowing the synopsis, because the synopsis for the most part is relatively straightforward, this woman Evelyn dies, and this guy ERIN is basically just thrown into someone's body for a different day every single time, for 8 different bodies for 8 different days, to try to figure out what happened and find out who actually murdered Evelyn Hardcastle. So the plot itself, the synopsis, is relatively straightforward, but despite knowing that, you're thrown into this book and somehow like you're completely out of context. Like, I had no idea what was going on, and it was so confusing to the point that ERIN's name didn't even pop up, Evelyn's name didn't even pop up, and I honestly thought that I was reading a completely different book. So I was really confused, guys. You have no idea. However, thankfully, once you're past that mark, things start to come together and you are in for a wild ride. This is also a book where you really have to read very closely, because there is a lot of jumping back and forth in more ways than one, so you really have to read very closely in this book. And the reason why I end up loving this book so much is because this author did such a phenomenal job with the thriller aspect and the plot twist. As a thriller, there should be a ton of plot twists. And as a reader, I was always left guessing. There were so many times when I thought the book would go a certain way, and it did for a short period of time, and then it completely veered a 180. Like, the author was like, nope, JK, completely different now. And just when I thought that, you know, I actually knew who the guy was and I thought the book was coming to an end, then it completely changed. Like, everything shifted. So this book was so good for that aspect, which is why as a thriller this book is such a great success. So anyways, if you're really looking for a good thriller novel, a good mystery, a good plot twister, then this book is definitely for you, because I was left guessing the entire time. Like, I honestly did not know what to expect, especially with the whole in the beginning when I was so confused and lost in general. That also made the anticipation even better, because once you start to get to understand what was going on, things start to look up, and it's just so good, guys. Definitely recommend this book, especially if you're looking for a mystery, thriller, suspenseful plot twister novel. So the next book that I want to talk about is Ignite the Stars by MAURA. This one comes out on September 4th, so it actually already came out, and I got this one from the publishers themselves, so thank you so much for sending this book to me. So for those who don't know, this book follows a girl called Ayakocha, who is actually this huge criminal mastermind that everyone in the galaxy is afraid of. What they don't realize that he is actually a she, and that she is actually a 17-year-old girl, and then one day she gets captured and she's basically trapped to become part of the Commonwealth's military academy. And from there she meets all these new acquaintances, specifically Bryn and her instructor Knives, and as she desperately plots for her escape, she becomes closer and closer to these 2 individuals, and then she starts to realize that not everything is what it seems. So this book is great for sci-fi, it's great for romance, it's great for friendship. So to start this off, this book was a very fast read. I finished this within a day or so. I will also consider that this book is a bit predictable. Actually, it's definitely predictable, but it's also very engaging. So even though I thought the overall plot was relatively predictable, for me the characters were actually the highlight of this book, and which is why I actually still thoroughly enjoyed this book at the end. I really like the main character Aya, as well as the secondary characters Bryn and Knives. Honestly, I really liked all their interactions together and how the book really showed Aya's personality and how much she changed from the beginning to the end of the book. I am also a huge fan of the romance in this book because it was so cute. I'm also kind of thinking that this book will be a series because the ending was such a huge cliffhanger, literally the biggest cliffhanger, that I think the author of her not to do a series, like a follow-up book, is kind of silly, and I'm really excited for it if she does do one. But at the same time, I'm not really sure because I believe this was a standalone, but then I saw on Goodreads like the other day when I was writing the notes for this review or this little video, was that there's number 1 now appears next to this book, so I'm thinking that it becomes a series. So if that's the case, I'm excited for it. If that's not the case, then this ending is the worst ending ever because you're left with such a huge cliffhanger. Another thing I want to talk about is the writing style. I think it was a bit choppy at times, and I really did not like the whole myth cursing. I don't really understand it. It was as if the author wanted to make this book PG-13 or something, and basically substituted all the curse words into myth. So you're missing mad, like mything mad, or myth this or myth that, etc. And I don't really understand why she chose myth as the curse word instead. It's very odd to me, and I did not like that. Then the last and final book that I want to discuss in this video is Uncharted by ERIN CASHMAN. This one comes out on September 4th, so it came out already, and I actually got this copy from the publisher and the author herself for a review, so thank you for sending this over to me. So this book basically follows a 17-year-old girl called Annabeth who prefers fantasy over reality because reality means that her mother is dead and it's basically all her fault. And then one day she accompanies her father to the funeral of a family friend, and there she finds out that something is not what it seems. And then one night Annabeth's father goes missing, and she is really freaked out by what has happened and does everything she can to search for him, understandably. And then she starts to fear that perhaps his disappearance isn't something as being lost, but he's actually the victim for something far more sinister. So for me, the best part of this book was the mystery aspect. I was left constantly guessing about what was going to happen. I literally did not know what was going to happen. I didn't have an inkling of what was going to happen until the really end, because the author did a really good job of twisting and turning, and not just doing plot twists per se, but incorporating a bunch of different elements involved and then introducing new elements all the time, so you're always left constantly guessing, or at least I was. So this book, in terms of its mystery and thriller aspect, she did a really good job for it. I also really enjoy the incorporation of the mythical creatures and the secret societies involved. I thought that was a really nice element, and I really like books when they talk about that, so I really like this book because of that as well. However, for me, there are two things about this book that I was not such a big fan of. The first one is the romance between Annabeth and Griffin. Okay, so I thought they were I understand they're childhood friends, but I also thought they were kind of like cousins in a way, because they kept talking about the Magellan clan. I might be pronouncing that name wrong, but I believe Annabeth's mother was part of that clan because she went off to do that intense expedition, etc. with all the other family friends, and she even called them uncle and aunt at one point, like some of them. So I thought they were actually all related to some degree. So for me, Griffin and Annabeth were cousins. They might not be like first cousins, they're probably second cousins, I'm not really sure, but I'm pretty sure they're related. So that romance aspect to me just threw me off, because the entire time I was like, but they're cousins. It just seems so off to me that they're romantically involved or they have this attraction to each other. So that for me just really threw me off. The second thing that I wasn't super fond of in this book was actually the main character, Annabeth herself. I feel like her character and her personality just really had three moods. One was being moody, one was being incredibly protective of her father, and the third one was feeling all these things for Griffin. So because of that, I don't think her character was very well developed, and because she literally only had three personalities or three emotions that I'm aware of. So like I said already, the book is great if you like the thriller, you like the mystery, you like the introduction of secret societies, mythical creatures, then this book is definitely for you because I think the author did a really great job on that. But in terms of the romance, maybe not so much, as well as the character development. I think the author mostly focused on the mystery aspect itself, in which case she did a fantastic job. So if that's what you're looking for, then I definitely recommend this book to you. If you're looking for a romance novel, then this book is probably not for you. So anyways, these are all the 3 books I want to discuss for this video of the books that I read back in August, the arcs specifically that I read back in August. If you had read any of these books, let me know down below for your input, if you agree with what I had to say or not. If any of these books are also in your TBR, let me know down below. I'm curious to see if anyone else is interested in reading any of these. I mean, some of these books are all amazing in their own separate ways, some better than others, I think. But other than that, I think they're all really great novels. So anyways, that's all to say for this video. If you like this video, please do give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you. Bye.